Hey everybody, I've been moving the past month and I'm in a temporary place right now and will probably be moving again soon. So if my videos are sporadic, that's why. I just wanted to do an update on the harassment. The last update was back in August 2017, so this is some of the stuff since then. Last summer, some new neighbors moved in below me and at first I didn't notice anything unusual. But then around October, they started harassing me by following me around the house, hitting the floor under my feet. Like one time I was sitting in a chair in the living room silently, no talking, no TV, no sound whatsoever, and they hit the floor directly under my chair. Another time I was standing in the kitchen stirring a pot on the stove, and again, silently, there were no sounds whatsoever, and they started hammering violently under my feet. Another time I was quietly dusting the living room and they started hitting the floor directly under my feet, frantically. And they were doing this pretty much every day for no reason. And there were a few times they followed me from room to room doing it. So it became obvious that they were harassing me and I complained to management about it, but of course they did nothing. So after about 4 months of that, I moved out. And it's hard to explain to someone who hasn't gone through something like that how agitating it is. But it is a form of Chinese torture, and it was pretty bad. A few times I also felt electrical zapping sensations on my feet at the same time that they were hitting the floor under my feet. Another day there was a vibration that would wake me up at the exact moment that I fell asleep, and then as soon as I would fall asleep again, it would wake me up again at the exact moment that I was falling asleep, and that happened several times. Other times, they would wake me up with a horn or the sound of someone yelling or banging or knocking on the wall. Also, at that apartment complex, which, by the way, was subsidized housing, one time I was walking through the complex to get the mail and my son told me he saw a lady behind us who was wearing the same dress, same hat, same glasses as me and looked like me. And he also started noticing that people around us in public places were dressed like me. And also it was unusual because the dress I was wearing that day was homemade. I did not buy it in a store. So that does appear to be something they're doing now, trying to impersonate me or something. On October 29th, 2017, I woke up with another red dot in my eye. You can go back and look at other videos to see what I'm talking about. They were also at that other apartment. They were leaving cars parked in front of my apartment that would eventually have to be towed. And one of them was a white van that they left directly in front of my window, and it was there for months and never moved. And I felt like it was psychological warfare because of what happened to me when I was a little kid that involved a white van that would wait for me when I walked home from school. So again, these people taunt me about bad childhood experiences for some reason. And I mean, that's a fairly general example, but sometimes they can get extremely specific. So I do know that these people know about specific incidents in my childhood that were extreme traumas, and they taunt me about it. More strange coincidences with the smart TV. One time I was in the living room and the TV was on, and I said I had a headache, so I went to lay down in my room, and then I watched something on YouTube on my laptop, and an ad popped up for a migraine medicine. So, it seems like they were somehow able to connect my smart TV with my laptop, even though I have no connections there that I've manually put there. As far as gang stalkers go, there was this youngish 20-something girl that kept showing up everywhere I would go. One time she ran in front of my car as I was driving down the street. Then she was at the park. And then another time she was yelling next to my car at another park. And there may have been a few more times. But eventually I didn't see her anymore. But it did seem like she was a stalker. Also, I started noticing the same license plates around me every time I would leave the house. So I started taking note of the numbers, and I realized that the plates were on different cars. So there's something really strange about that, and there's more to that subject, but I don't want to get into it in this video. I've talked about it in other videos. Also, my mom, again, repeating something that I did in my house just a few days prior. She's done that several times. Also, there was this one day where there were 2 to 3 total strangers at the store repeating something that I did in my house. And again, these were specific and unusual things, not general things. There was another really strange incident at the store where these two people were wearing white lab coats, and they quickly walked over to the produce section where I was standing and stood next to me the whole time I was there, and they weren't shopping, they didn't have baskets or anything, they were just intently staring at the produce, and it just seemed very odd to me. Still, you know, people yell at me, like, if I'm out and about. When I was moving out, loading some stuff into the car, a man's voice yelled bang, and this pretty much happens everywhere I go, so I usually wear headphones, but for some strange reason it seems like even if I only take the headphones off for a minute, they say something that pertains to me or some insult or something. So it's just kind of weird how I feel like I can't even take my headphones off for a minute when I'm out and about. Like, for example, the other day in the place where I'm staying now, my son opened his door before I could put my headphones on. I hadn't got out of the car yet. I was still in the car, but somebody was yelling a comment about my body. Also, there were some really weird coincidences that were happening a few months ago with different people wearing the same jacket. First, I was walking outside and an Eskimo lady crossed my path wearing a specific gray jacket. And I'd never seen any other Eskimos there, so that was sort of unusual. And then the Alaska earthquake happened a few days after that. And for those of you who don't know, Eskimos are Alaska natives. And then I started noticing the same exact jacket on different people. First, I noticed it on a guy at a car dealership. I went in to have my car checked because I was leaving town, and he was giving me all kinds of problems, almost like he was trying to make it difficult for me to leave. And he was wearing the exact gray jacket that the Eskimo lady had been wearing. And then I went to my storage unit, and they wouldn't let me drop off my stuff on the day that I was moving. So I had to delay. And that lady at the storage unit was wearing the exact same gray jacket. So I don't know what's going on, but there's something really strange going on there. Also, there was something strange going on with my smartphone where everyone I talked to on the phone when I was trying to move out sounded like the same people over and over. And I kept having all these problems. Like, everything kept getting in my way. It's almost like, I don't know, it just felt like I was trying to get out, and it was like there were all these things blocking my path to get out. And one of the weird things was that everybody that I talked to on the phone, didn't matter what company it was or what, because I was calling all these different places, they all sounded like the same couple of people. It was weird. And that's never happened to me before in my life. Also, I would text friends, and it seemed like they weren't getting my texts. So for example, like, I recently contacted a friend on Facebook. I had deleted my Facebook account because there were some weird things going on with that. Just friends and family not acting like themselves. So I deleted my account, but then I created a new account specifically to contact a few friends. And on the day I created the new account, I contacted this friend, and he replied to me immediately and said, "Hey, let's hang out tomorrow. Here's my number." And then the next day I texted him, and he didn't respond at all. He still hasn't responded. It's been several days. He still hasn't responded. And then I sent another message on Facebook, and he didn't respond. So, and this person was like a brother to me. So it didn't seem like him at all to act like that. And then the same thing happened with another friend. So it almost seems like they're blocking my phone calls and texts and even my Facebook messages, except there was like a delay, it seemed like, with that one, because I had just created the account on the same day I messaged him, and messaged me back like right away. And so it was like, it almost seemed like somebody is trying to block my messages, but for some reason they missed that one. And that's happened before in the past. I can remember something that happened like that with somebody a long time ago, years ago. And I remember getting a portion of a voicemail from the person. We were supposed to go do something one night. And, I called this person. They never answered, would never answer. And then I got a portion of a voicemail from them saying, "What's your problem? Why won't you answer your phone?" And so it was like they were trying to reach me and I was trying to reach them, but somebody in the middle was blocking it. That happened another time with a chat a long time ago. I was chatting with somebody, another TI actually, who was having the same experiences as me. And this person was saying that they felt their relationships were being manipulated from the outside. And we were talking by chat, and somebody intercepted the chat and started saying all these crazy things to me. And I actually asked this person if they said these specific things, and they said no, they didn't say it. So somebody actually cut us off in the chat, and I caught that one too. So I know that it's happened before, but it does seem like it's still happening now. Then there was this one day that I saw the same man 3 times in one day, and it was really odd because first I saw him outside of one store, and then down the street I passed a semi parked in the middle of the road, and he was walking alongside it looking at it. And then I saw him again outside of another store, and this happened within 1 hour, and the semi was facing the opposite direction of the store, so it didn't make sense. It was really strange. And he was short, stocky, he had brown hair, I think, but his eyes, I think, were blue. And he had this really creepy look on his face. So I don't know what that was about. It was just really strange. Also, there was more going on with the smart TV. My son would be watching something, and then I would hear characters say things that pertain to my life. And one time they even said one of my passwords. I mean, I don't want to get into specifics about that, but it happened several times, and there's just no way it's a coincidence. There were times they would say the same lines every time I passed by the TV. So we don't really watch TV in my house anymore. I canceled our cable long before we moved. Also, there was some guy on YouTube that was threatening to kill someone, and I was referred to his video by someone else. And what was weird about it was that he literally looked identical to someone I once knew. And he was talking to somebody in these videos, and he was telling them to stop talking and telling them they were going to be killed. And he was making these creepy videos of him stalking some lady in a grocery store. And for a minute, I thought he was threatening me because he looked like someone I used to know, and he would say things that seemed like responses to things that I said, either on YouTube or in the privacy of my own home. But then he would say something else that didn't pertain to me. So I'm not sure what was going on there, but he did look literally identical to someone I used to know. And he was threatening to kill some female and her son. Also, the person that he looked identical to was somebody that I knew 20 years ago who was friends with a girl who was murdered, and her murder was never solved. I didn't know her very well, so I never knew she was murdered until recently. And when I found out, I started wondering if that's why I was targeted, because I first noticed the harassment around the time I met her. But I've since come to the conclusion that something's going on in private networks that I don't know about, and maybe I was blamed for something that I'm unaware of. I don't know. But I'm pretty sure that that guy was connected to the mafia, which I didn't even realize until recently. But it seems like the guy on YouTube was impersonating that guy. And I know the stalkers do that. They impersonate people. So I'm not sure what that was about. But again, the stalkers know things from my early childhood. So I don't think it's just the Hollywood mafia. I mean, maybe they want someone to think that, but it's not. I mean, they use government technology, and it goes back to childhood for me. I've heard some people say that private investigators are involved, and I've heard others say the Air Force is involved. I have bizarre ties to both of those things, so I'm saying, yeah, that could be true. I mean, I remember being taken to Elmendorf as a very young child, and there were some very weird experiences involving the base outside of LA. There was some guy from the Air Force telling me he saw someone identical to me at the base there. And around the time that I was first targeted over 20 years ago, I had contacted a private investigator firm because I saw an advertisement in a trade magazine for a job, and I was curious about it, but I never pursued it. So that could have had something to do with it as well. I don't know. But sometimes I just think this is all a simulation or something. I mean, this stuff gets so bizarre sometimes that it doesn't seem real, but it is real. So anyway, that's pretty much it for now. I just wanted to update you and let you know that yes, I'm still being targeted. Just because I don't focus on it all the time doesn't mean it's not happening. A lot of the time, I think the harassment could be a form of extortion. by these groups in that they want you to make this stuff your life. So I refuse to make this stuff the center of my life. I want to continue to live my life the way I want to live my life and exercise my liberty instead of allowing them to turn me into one of them. Because if I were to constantly focus on this stuff, I would become like them, and I don't want that. So I do take note of things, and I share it with you to bring awareness to this and to let others know that they're not alone. But I do not put my life focus on it. So I'll be getting back to talking about ancient prophecy real soon. I just wanted to let you know that I'm in a transition right now. So I hope you're hanging in there, and I will talk to you soon.